Friends, welcome once again to JewishAnytime.com. So I don't know about you guys, but here we are on the saddest day of the Jewish calendar, mourning the loss of the temple in 70 CE. So in the year 2025, could be that there's some folks amongst you who were around 2,000 years ago, but for most of us, it's very difficult to relate to not only the loss of the temple that stood in Jerusalem, but more importantly, and what I would like to discuss with you guys today, what the symbolism and what the meaning of the loss of the temple really is, because what I'm going to suggest is one of the main feelings, one of the points of suffering after the loss of the temple, we feel today in a very different way, which can help us understand and really empathize with the magnitude of the loss. So if we think of trying to mourn a huge edifice, a huge building, it's very difficult to really come to terms with this being the saddest day of the Jewish calendar. But what if I were to tell you that what we really are mourning is the loss of purpose and the loss of direction that the Jewish people had at the time? Allow me to explain. So at the time that the temple stood in Jerusalem, we had prophets. If anyone wanted to figure out whether they should go left and right, whether they should date this person or that person, pursue this vocation or another, they would simply go to a prophet who was the divine GPS, and they would direct you in the best possible next steps of your life. Tragically, when we lost the temple, prophecy ceased. People felt a sense of loss of direction, and the temple was a spiritual anchor. It was a reminder that we're in this world for a meaning, that there's a purpose. As Dr. Viktor Frankl once said, quoting Nietzsche, if you have a why to live, you can always figure out the how to overcome difficulties if you really understand that there's a rhyme and there's a reason why we're in this world. So let's take those two concepts together. The loss of spiritual meaning, the anchor that the loss of the temple symbolized, and the loss of direction. And let's fast forward 2,000 years. And what I'm going to suggest is that while we don't live in ancient Babylon, we live in digital Babylon. So for the purposes of my friends on JewishEverytime.com, so many of you know, I work very closely with the largest content creator in the world. What that unique vantage point has given me is a built-in focus group of the toughest generation since America became a country. Gen Z is really the target group of the particular content creator that I work closely with. What we did in order to really understand the attitudes, the proclivities of that age cohort is we did a very deep dive and we did some data extrapolation. And what did we find? It'll be no surprise to you, my friends, that we found that this generation, the number one pain point is nihilism. No meaning, no purpose. So when you don't have meaning and you don't have purpose, what's happened to this generation, the digital Babylon generation, is it's the highest form of anxiety, the highest form of depression. Teenage suicides are spiking. And if you drill down, and if you really understand, you want to understand what the catalyst is, the trigger to this groundswell of this oncoming mental health tsunami, it comes down to lack of purpose and direction, which is really what the temple symbolized at the time in Jerusalem. So let's unpack this a little bit. We all know that social media was supposed to connect us, but instead what it's done is it's fragmented us. It's caused people to hide behind digital machines. It's caused people, instead of trying to build their internal world, try to find out what's their unique qualities, how can they best actualize their potential. What's happened, unfortunately, is the world today is the entire sense of a person's existence and validation is coming from likes, comments, and remarks. So what you have is an entire generation which is in reactive mode instead of proactive mode, and hasn't taken the time to build their internal world and try and appreciate the unbelievable value, the intrinsic value of every single human being. Every one of you has been given the greatest gift that any human being can be given. The biggest gift that God can bestow on another human being is a Jewish soul. That soul, that spark, is your GPS for life. That soul basically says, I have intrinsic value, whether people like my post, whether people comment or not. And I want to try and help people recalibrate so that from this Tisha B'Av, this time of our digital Babylon, we can start recalibrating and develop a new GPS for life. So the spiritual center that we lost, let's talk about 2,000 years later of what's collapsed. If you look, my friends, at the most recent Pew report and some of the research which has developed as a result of the proliferation of technology, if you read any of the work of Jonathan Haidt, you'll find the following. You'll find that this generation has the highest form of, let's call it, spiritual degradation. A lot of people searching, a lot of people are placing on pedestal pop culture deities, which God, in his infinite wisdom, in the last few years has taken down, has discredited some of the most famous people in the world. And people are looking now for role models. People are looking for direction. So I want to share with you a few things that'll help us hopefully rebuild our GPS and rethink about meaning and purpose in this digital Babylon. So there's, my friends, 8.8 billion people in the world. Out of the 8.8 billion people, 0.2% are in a very rough world, the diamonds in the rough, the chosen people. You, my friend, as a Jew, a Jewess, listening to this Jewish Anytime, have a very unique role in a world where most people are trying to placate others and trying to keep up with the Joneses. So I'm going to give you some challenges so we can break down this digital temple and start focusing on meaning, purpose, which the byproduct is happiness and wholesomeness, which at the end of the day are the attributes and the aspirations of all of us. Number one, let's choose to create rather than consume. Allow me to explain. If I were to ask you, when do you feel better about yourself? When do you feel that you're doing something more meaningful? When you're receiving money or when you're giving money? So all of us would say when you give, there's a groundswell of wholesomeness, a feeling of feeling good about ourselves, because the way we build our self-esteem is by doing esteemable acts. So the first thing is to start to become a giver in the world where words like selfie for the very first time are included in the Oxford Dictionary. Social media is a misnomer. It's really anti-social media. So in a world where everyone is trying to take, is looking for accolades, let's, point one, use as our exercise today. Look at people who are going through tough times We all have around us, whether it's family members, friends, estranged people, someone who we know, a text, a phone call, and let's make it a phone call. To pick up the phone, simply to say, I was thinking about you, simply to say, find out something about them that you believe in, build people up. This is a world, this is a platform. The cyberspace has derailed and broken many, many people. Let's, point one, be creative instead of being a consumer. Let's be a giver rather than a taker, and help build up rather than something that's very easy and bring people down. The second thing we can do in our digital Babylon is, instead of seeking trends, let's seek the truth. All of us are privy to things that pop culture is spewing out through various pop culture platforms, which intuitively we know is incorrect. The time to stand up and to have intestinal fortitude is now, where the world is derailed, where people are looking for purpose. You, my friend, have been given the unbelievable obligation and responsibility of being a light unto all the nations. It's a very dark world out there. And there's only 0.2% of us that the Almighty has given a spark to ignite the world. So when people are looking for trends, they're trying to keep up with isms and fashions. It's an amazing opportunity for people to reach out and tell people that it's not necessarily a funny, snide thing to talk about family divisiveness. That there are so many people that have broken families. How incredible it is to have a nuclear family and to aspire to find your significant other, as opposed to objectifying people and as opposed to treating people as commodities. Let's take a deep dive within ourselves. In a world where the number one pain point seems to be the lack of purpose, nihilism, let's figure out, what is our purpose in this world? So the very first letter in the Torah is a beis, which is a shape which looks like that. One of the reasons that it looks like that is the commentators teach us, while we might not understand what goes on before the world was created, everything in front of the world was created by a benevolent, altruistic, loving God. There's something that's a myth that's being spewed out through digital media, through pop culture, that I want to dispel right now so that we can take this as one of our tools as we go forth from this Tisha B'Av. And that's the concept that a happy life means a pain-free life. There's nothing, my friends, further from the truth. What that means, unfortunately, is people think that pain is bad, and anything and everything that can mute or neutralize the pain is something that people are reaching out for. It's caused addiction. It's caused every single excuse for people to live like automatons. If you take a Torah perspective, and again, we're trying to find meaning and purpose in a world which has become devoid of meaning and purpose. Again, since the time of the destruction of the temple, it wasn't the edifice so much as what the temple stood for, which was the spiritual anchor of the Jewish people. And that's a people that lives with a meaning and purpose. Pain, from a Torah perspective, is not something that's bad. Pain is the price that every single one of you are going to pay for greatness. Nobody in listening to this Jewish Anytime video right now who thinks of who a role model is, who they would want to aspire to be, and think that that person had an easy street, and that person had a linear ascent, because that's not the way life is. It's the people who gird down, who have the intestinal fortitude to overcome the pain, to become greater people, and to actualize the potential because of that. So the idea of a happy life being a pain-free life, let's take that as one digital brick that we can start building together. I want to build another digital brick, and that is part of the preamble of the Declaration of Independence of the United States talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So it's important, if we want to build a digital brick that is going to be part of our new, if you will, digital purpose and meaning in this world, to know that from a Torah perspective, we don't believe in pursuing happiness, that life is in the north state or the east state. Life is in the state of mind. When I say the state of mind, realize that every single thing that you have is a gift. Very different to what we hear the pop culture streams spewing. It's not coming to us. It's all a gift. When you wake up in the morning tomorrow, God willing, there's a Jewish phrase that is customarily said by a Jew when we wake up in the morning. It's a little anecdote called moderni, and the last two words of that saying that every Jew says when you wake up in the morning are the two Hebrew words Rabbi and Munasecha, meaning I have faith in you. I want you to press pause for a second. Think that the Almighty himself, God who created the universe, who created the Milky Way, who created thousands and thousands of people before and created everything that you know and see, believes in you. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, I want you to remember the following. The Almighty himself believes in me. The Almighty himself bestowed me with the greatest gift that can ever be given, and that is his Jewish soul. Clearly, I have meaning, I have purpose, which puts you way ahead of most people in this world. So when we take stock here on our digital Babylonian Tisha B'Av 2025, I want you to think of the following little exercise. Social media has caused nihilism, caused millions of people to live lives of quiet desperation. I want you to think of a social connection that you have, someone who you've drifted from, someone who you've had some altercation from. Use today, reach out to that person. Say you heard some talk on Jewish Anytime about the importance of building, about reaching out, about the fact that we're all connected. This is the opportunity to reach out instead of being anti-social media, to rebuild the connections. That's one of the reasons that the original temple was lost, was the concept of baseless hatred. Make it a random act of kindness. Reach out, tell someone that you were thinking of them, that you believe in them. Say the hardest two words, I'm sorry. And every single one of us, every single one of you have the opportunity to be part of rebuilding the recoming of the meaning and purpose in a world that's gone crazy with depression and people feeling overwhelmed. You, my friend, can be the GPS for so many people, the spark in a dark world, the diamond in a rough world. My prayer and hope for each and every one of you is that you'll take this to heart, take this Tisha B'Av to press pause, rebuild the relationships that are estranged, realize the tremendous gift that you have by being a Jew, and that the purpose for each and every one of us is by our actions and by what we say to bring down a divine spark in this world. May we, by so doing, be the catalyst to the rebuilding of the temple. May it happen soon in our times. Thank you for listening.